The problem states, determine which of the ordered pairs is a solution of the equation x plus 6y minus 2 is equal to 0. The question wants to know which of these ordered pairs is a solution to this equation, meaning that when you plug in the values that are given, the equation stands and this side equals 0. So the ordered pairs are always in x, y position. So we have to determine which of the answers A through E, x and y, when you plug it in, makes this equation correct. To start off with one of the solutions, so we can start off with A. So that means that when x is 5, y is equal to negative 2/3. For this problem, I'm going to just plug in x into the equation and solve for y to see if it matches the y that's given in the answer. So I'm going to try to plug in x into the equation, solve for y, and see if I get negative 2/3. I'm going to plug in 5 for x. So this is going to be 5 plus 6y minus 2 is equal to 0. Now I'm trying to solve for y. So I'm going to collect like terms here. So 5 and minus 2. 5 minus 2 is 3. I'm left with plus 6y is equal to 0. Now I have to solve for y. So I have to bring the 3 over to this side. So in order to bring this to this side, I have to subtract 3 because this is positive. I have to do the opposite. So minus 3 and minus 3. So 3 minus 3, 0 cancels out. So I'm left with 6y is equal to 0 minus 3 is negative 3. Now I have to solve for y. I have to divide by 6 to both sides. See, I divide by 6 because this is 6 times y. In order to get rid of 6, I have to divide, which is the opposite of multiplication. So what I do on one side, I have to do the other side. So 6 divided by 6 is 1. So I'm left with y is equal to negative 3 over 6. And this can be simplified. So 3 over 6 is simply negative 1/2. Because 3 can go into 6 2 times, and 3 can go into 3 1 time. So we know that 3 is half of 6, that's why this simplifies to negative 1/2. So when we see the problem, when we plugged in 5 for x, we got a result as negative 1/2. And A says that when 5 is x, y is negative 2/3. And we see that it doesn't match. Therefore A is not a possible solution. We can also eliminate E, because E says when 5 is x, y is 5/6. And we know that when x is 5, we solve for y and we get negative 1/2 or negative 3 over 6. And this doesn't match. So E is also incorrect. Now we're going to plug in x as 7 and solve for y. So this becomes 7 plus 6y minus 2 is equal to 0. Now let's solve for y. We collect like terms. 7 minus 2. So 7 minus 2 is 5. Plus 6y is equal to 0. Now I have to solve for y. So I need to isolate this to be by itself. So I have to bring this 5 over to this side. Since this is positive, I have to do the opposite, which is minus 5. Whatever I do on one side, I have to do it on the other side. So 5 minus 5 cancels out. I'm left with 6y is equal to 0 minus 5 is negative 5. Now to solve for y. This is multiplication, 6 times y. I have to do the opposite, which is division, so I have to divide by 6 to both sides. 6 divided by 6 is 1, so I'm left with y is equal to negative 5 over 6. When x is 7, we get y is equal to negative 5/6. And B says that when x is 7, y is negative 2/3. We see that it doesn't match, so B is not a possible solution. Now we're going to plug in 6 as x and solve for y. So this becomes 6 plus 6y minus 2 is equal to 0. Now we collect like terms. 6 and 2 are like terms, so 6 minus 2 is 4, plus 6y is equal to 0. Now we have to solve for y, so we have to bring the 4 to the side. So since it's positive, we're going to subtract 4, and subtract 4 to the other side. 4 minus 4 is 0, we're left with 6y is equal to negative 4. Now 6 times y, we have to do the opposite, which is division, so we're going to divide by 6 to both sides. So 6 divided by 6 cancels out, we're left with y is equal to negative 4 over 6. And we look at this fraction and we can simplify. So we have to find a common factor that can go into both 4 and 6. And we know that 2 can go into both 4 and 6. So how many times does 2 go into 4? 2 times. How many times does 2 go into 6? 3 times. Therefore, y is equal to negative 2/3 when we simplify negative 4 6. What I did here was I just divided by 2 to both top and the bottom. So 4 divided by 2 gives me 2. 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. So the simplified fraction of negative 4 6 is negative 2/3. Therefore, when x is 6, y equals negative 2/3. And we look at one of the answers, C says when x is 6, y is 5 over 6. That doesn't match, so C is incorrect. We see D when 6 is x, y is negative 2/3. And that's a match to what we got. Therefore, D is the right answer.